Today I will be talking about the movie The Satanic Rituals of Dracula. The Satanic Rituals of Dracula takes place in the 1970s London, where the police are in the middle of a secret investigation into a cult. One of their own, a police officer, is badly tortured and killed after witnessing part of a ritual take place. Before he reveals to his superior officers that four prominent members of society, a government minister, a peer, a general, and a famous scientist, are part of this cult. In order to avoid any retaliation by the minister, a Secret Service official, Colonel Matthews, calls in Scotland Yard's Inspector Murray to work on this case independently. Murray suggests consulting an occult expert, Professor Van Helsing. Upon further investigation, they learn that this cult have been experimenting with vampirism and are under the control of Dracula, who has a plan to who has a who wants to use the disease to wipe out all of humanity. This 1973 movie was directed by Alan Gibson, and the stars include Christopher Lee as Count Dracula, Peter Cushing as Van Helsing, Michael Coles as Inspector Murray, Joanne Loma as Jessica Van Helsing, and William Franklin as Officer Torrance. Before I get into this review, I want you to know that this movie is the 8th movie in the Hammer's Dracula series, and I have not seen the previous 7. One of my primary issues with this movie is that it doesn't give horror movie vibes. It feels to me more of a thriller about a satanic cult being investigated than anything else, which involves a lot of sitting around, developing pictures, making plans, and other espionage related activities. For instance, in the scene where Van Helsing is speaking with the head of corporate, the man is seated behind a desk and it's indeed difficult to see him even with the headlamp on. Like a typical spy movie would have scenes like this one. Another issue I had was that Dracula only appeared for about 15 minutes, and those 15 minutes were towards the end. And with the 15 minutes that he had, it did not. He felt more like an underpaid henchman who was trying to be the bad guy and failed. It wasn't giving much like he was the major. It wasn't giving that he was a major villain of the movie. The other characters were another problem I had was that the other characters in the movie were pretty much boring and dull. The only one that I liked was Van Helsing. I'm not sure if it was the acting style of the 1970s or it was just the performers. To me, it felt like they weren't into it, kind of lacked a little bit of depth. To me, there was not much that I enjoyed about this film. I would like to say that this movie, for it to be made in the 1970s, they did a pretty decent job on making the blood look realistic. I've watched a lot of vampire themed. I watched a lot of vampire themed films and television series, but none of them have ever mentioned Dracula, or if they did, it was probably as a joke. So I was kind of excited about watching this movie, but at the same time, I didn't have high expectations for it, and I was right. It had one or two moments, but overall, it wasn't very exciting to watch. I kind of got bored with it. But then I got bored within 20 minutes of the film. I think I'd give it a I'd give it a 2